Thank you for tuning in to Stampscaping 101. This is this last scene in a series of 3 Lighthouse scenes that I've just completed. I've been doing this over the past, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 days of exploring light inks on dark cardstock, okay? In this case, the blue cardstock. The blue cardstock allowed for both impressions in black, and it's dark enough to create all kinds of different types of effects using light ink on the darker paper, including impressions in white. Alright, so anyways, this one is Love Must Be As Much a Light as It Is a Flame. I thought, yeah, that kind of goes along in theme with this, you know, so in this one right here I had the lighthouse going in kind of multiple directions here, but for me as I was doing this, the horizon line for one kind of matches with the horizon line for the other 2 lighthouse scenes that I've done. I put the lighthouse on the front of the card in each instance, and we've had the quote and some of their subject matter focal point on the second part of the card. But for me, the technique that came about with this one was and again, this is not a new technique or anything like that. People have been doing these types of things, I'm sure, but this is a ripped paper towel technique, and I've applied that over impressions of the cloud cumulus here to create that additional kind of layering and lighting, and it just gave it a really nice, beautiful, I thought, soft kind of incarnation of a moonlit cloud or starlit cloud or something like that. And the idea for that, those things there were the formations up in the sky that I added with that ripped paper towel technique. And I thought, when you start doing those types of textures in one area, sometimes it's good to introduce those into another area just for some visual continuity between the 2 areas. So anyways, boy, this was a lot of fun, and I really enjoy working on dark paper, apparently, and I enjoy working on matte paper, especially when you can do things like these types of effects with Colorbox pigment ink, or just another form of pigment ink. I think that for my usage here, kind of the more translucent ink of Colorbox works really well. I think for control, you know, of application, you can use it in conjunction with a kind of a more opaque brand of pigment ink, white pigment ink, but I don't know, I would give that Colorbox one a try and apply wherever it's been applied on here. I've used kind of a drier brush approach to it. So if you try this out and you're getting blobs, there's just way too much ink on your ink applicator, so you really want to take a lot of that ink almost to the point where you add a few taps with your applicator. I happen to use the Colorbox stylus tool, okay, when doing this, like so, okay. You want to get it almost so dry on your brush for this dry tapping technique, where you almost don't even see anything tapping once or twice, okay? It's almost invisible. You have to keep adding more and more. But this type of look right here, you know, let's go back. I can do some of that in here too and create this kind of misty or foggy glow. I was just kind of free-forming it in here, but I think the ripped paper towel technique would look, you know, really nice in these other scenes like that. So I might have to revisit those and do a little bit of extra embellishments, applying what I learned in this video to those ones. So I don't know, it just makes for a really fun look to it, I think, and it's kind of a little bit more dreamy, I guess, with these types of cloud formations and these effects up here, these soft effects using light ink on dark paper. So just fun stuff. So hope you enjoy it if you choose to watch it in full. It's just really an experiment, you know. As I mentioned in these videos, it's something like this isn't really so much instructional as it is kind of explorational, you know, because I'm not really explaining what I'm doing, because for the most part, I'm kind of just using these techniques as I don't know, kind of more of an inquiry into what it would look like and if it can be done. So that being said, for those that watch these videos, I hope you enjoy it, and I certainly enjoyed it myself. It's so much fun, and I really like the end result in terms of the spirit of this type of look right here. So thank you once again. Okay, I have a another piece of blue cardstock here. It's a pre-folded piece of paper for the purpose of a 5 by 7 inch card. Doing it again on dark blue cardstock. This will be my third and final piece in this series, and it's going to be my final piece. I don't know where it's going to be in terms of sequentially, in terms of how these are meant to be seen. Maybe they're all kind of interchangeable, I'm not sure. But we'll see how these come into play. But I want to do something different than the first two, as always, but we need to make these things where they're both related and different. So there needs to be some kind of visual cues going from the first two Lighthouse scenes that I've done in this manner. Okay, so we're going to stamp out the Lighthouse large. I could have done the smaller one too, but I thought I would go with the larger one here. I don't know, I'm thinking about the smaller one now too. I think I'll go with the large one. We'll just keep it bold, okay? All right, so Versafine black. I want to have a nice, super dark black here. If I do the Versafine on glossy cardstock, sometimes it smears. So, but this being a matte cardstock, you know, it's matte cardstocks are typically a little bit more absorbent. There are coated matte stocks as well. Just keep in mind. So, but the glossy coating tends to keep a lot of the ink on the surface, you know, because it's extra sealed. All right, so we have that inked up. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and blot off the bottom a little bit, okay? And I'm going about an inch into this, okay? Now I'm taking off a good amount, okay? It's in a dabbing motion. I'm not doing a real hard straight because I don't want this to be coming to a real abrupt line at the end, okay? So taking off quite a bit, okay? Because I want it to kind of fade off on the bottom, because I'm going to show you, I'll show you what I'm going to do, or at least my thoughts on this. Here coming up. Okay, we'll go about like that. Doesn't have to be exact. I'm probably doing it about, it's probably about 2 inches up from the bottom, approximately. Could be higher, could be lower. Could be left, right, a little bit. But for this one here, I'm just doing it center. Doesn't have to be, but that's the beauty of stamping. Compositionally, you know, the options are wide open for you. All right, so there we have our image. Doesn't stand out too much, does it, against a dark background? Dark on dark is what we have here. Okay, now on this one here, I wanted it to be real kind of celestial in feel. Okay, so one of the things that I do, it's kind of like a little gimmick or something like that. I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but kind of around a landscape. A lot of times I like to use clouds like this, because I don't know, even though you wouldn't see like a cumulus cloud mist, it looks pretty good when you add it down here, okay? It's just something, maybe it's a more whimsical type of look in terms of kind of a misty buildup. And around where you have kind of splashing rocks and waves, where the water's churning, you know, it's kind of an excuse to put that down there. I don't know. I don't need too much of an excuse to do this type of thing, though. I used in lakes, in reflections in the water, whatever. Okay? Now, we're stamping this in black, and it's a very dark black at that, so what I like to do is I like to blot off the edge on, I don't know, a lot of my sky figures. Okay? Alright, good even impression, okay? And I'm going to go for multiples of this now, okay? So in between impressions, what you want to do is you want to re-ink this. You don't want to just go for multiple impressions upon one inking, at least in this scene, or in this usage. Sometimes I get away with second impressions on glossy cardstock because the paper is sealed, so maybe not all of the ink transfers over to the card at times, and sometimes I might want a lighter version of the cloud. But on this one right here, since we're going for something that has so little contrast, let's go for fresh inked impressions. So you can see it's kind of building up like that. See that? From a textural standpoint, it's really fun. With the cloud stamp and all kind of sky imagery, you want the clouds to be nice and seamless. Okay. Now this, where I'm stamping over this crease right here, so there's going to be a little bit of a kind of a crease showing in here. And hopefully we can smooth that out later. See that right there? That's one of the bad things about stamping over, or one of the bad things about a pre-folded card is you have that kind of that ridge to kind of work around, but I'll show you what I'll do with that, or I don't know, in theory, I'll know what I'm going to attempt with that to kind of smooth that out, but that's not one of those things that really bothers me, though. I guess I don't worry about things that I don't really have control over. It's just all part of the scene now. Okay. Putting this over here. There's a certain type of, I guess, grandeur in a way when you have something kind of poking out from, beyond the clouds too. It gives it a certain majesty, and if it's a mountain or something like that, then it kind of represents height. Okay, so kind of building that out, like so. Let's go for one more over here. I tell you what, this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to put another one right up to that line, that ridge, okay? Like so. Okay. And do another one over here, but I don't want to stamp over that, so let's go with our super tedious mask here. There we go. That should do it. I'm joking, by the way. Masking is very easy. See that? We've really filled in that area. Okay. So now, let's take a look. Let's revisit two of the scenes that I've done previous to this composition. Let's see if we can zoom out. I am zoomed out all the way. Okay, this is the first scene right here. This is the second scene, okay? And as we can see, the horizon lines, okay, at the same height. Okay, this one. And this one right here, okay? So thematically, that's one of those things that's that we have in common. So what I'm going to do is follow suit here. So I'm going to just mark off where that horizon line is, okay? And we'll make the horizon line right there. So it'll give us some continuity between, you know, we have the continuity, of course, in terms of theme. It's a Lighthouse theme, but we'll have other visual similarities between the different cards here. And that will create kind of a visual bridge going from one composition to the next, okay? Okay, this is the easiest process in the world right here, is to just line up those two marks that I made. I don't know, I should probably measure it from here to here, you know, just with a ruler, but I think it's close enough. Okay, let's see. Couldn't remember which one of my stylus tools here was clean or ready to go. I think this is. Okay, we'll just kind of wipe on some tone to create a horizon line. Okay, we did that on this side. You can see that horizon line. It's been built there. Let's see, can you see what I'm doing? Let me try to move this up. Just a real gentle stroke here, okay? I'm just touching the page. I'm not pressing into it to try and get anything darker faster, okay? I'm just lightly touching the paper and then kind of dragging this across. You don't need to press into your sponge, okay? Something like that causes rips or potential tears, okay? And it's just rougher on the sponge, okay? And by the way, this is a Colorbox stylus tool. So there we have our nice horizon line. Pretty simple, isn't it? Okay, let's build up a little bit of tone down at the base of this. Okay, sometimes I like to make my scenes a little bit darker in the four corners. I haven't been doing that on all of these compositions, But on this one right here, I think I can because I have so much texture at the base of this composition here. Pretty simple composition. Just using the cloud cumulus and the light rocks and waves image. But I think the two, and especially the cloud cumulus used in repetition, makes for a nice full composition. You know, with things like filler stamps, you can fill in as much space as you really want to in theory. Even this, if this was, you know, 10 feet wide or something like that, in theory you can just keep building it up with that, that cloud. Okay, now where I'm putting a little bit of tone, right around the top portion of my cloud. Okay, hopefully that makes that cloud stand out a little bit more right here, because we make that area around it a little bit darker. Okay, same thing right up here, a little bit more tone right around up here where the cloud ends. Hopefully it kind of gives it a kind of an interesting feel. You know, we're kind of creating a little bit of a kind of like a feeling atmosphere. I'm trying to decide if I want to go a little bit darker on the two corners up here. I'm not sure. I could, but I'm not sure if I want to. Okay, let's try to create a little bit more continuity between that area in there. That ridge is really getting kind of dark, so I'll just kind of work around it. Okay, but otherwise I think that looks okay for now. Okay, now on this one right here, I think I'm going to do something a little bit different. I think I'm going to have light rays coming out from both sides of this lighthouse, like it's a dual lamp or something like that, spinning around. Where to do that now? Let's see, I have a piece of cardstock here. I think I'll use that as my straight edge. Let's see. Go like that. That. Or do I go narrow? A little bit more narrow. I'm trying to decide if I want that light beam to be running down underneath the, below the horizon. So I'm trying to think it. Let me see something here. There's a piece of vellum. So the light rays coming out from right here to here. And this way it'd be like that and that. I think that would look okay. Okay, so approximately here, here, and here, and here. I could get a little bit more formulaic and base it on, you know, kind of a rule of thirds or something like that, but I don't feel like doing that, so I'm not going to. Okay, so that is about like that. I need a piece of scrap paper again. Let's go about Okay, I'm going to do the light on the left side of the page first. Okay. And this is a really fun process here. I don't know if it's a fun process. I think it's a fun visual. Adding it in here is, I mean, it's okay. It's not tedious or anything like that, but I really like the look. I think it looks really nice coming from our light source. It's a really great way, I think, to or technique to introduce, I don't know, that's such a key visual when it comes to kind of the purpose of, you know, this object, you know, the star of our scene, which is the lighthouse, you know, to put that light in there, you know, at night. So I wish Joe Nathan were here. Joe, if you're watching from that lighthouse in the sky, hope you enjoy it. Joe Nathan is a man that used to stamp out. I don't know if he ever stamped out. That was his thing. In every scene that I ever did, there was a lighthouse in it, peeking out from somewhere, even if it wasn't, you know, real prominent. It doesn't matter if it was, you know, the Great Lakes or something like that, or, you know, the shoreline on the, you know, the coasts here, but, or occasionally you'd see like a lighthouse sometimes, I don't know, in what looked to me like the Andes or something like that, like peeking up from behind Mount Everest at times, but it was in there. If you you know, you looked for it, it was it might just be the tip of the, you know, the top of the lighthouse or something like that. But hey, you know, that's the thing about stamping. You can create any kind of world you want, and he loved lighthouses. So in his world, there was a lighthouse no matter what location. And you can see several of his scenes in our gallery section. Okay, let's add the light on the right, to the right of the lighthouse. Now this pigment ink that I'm working with, the Colorbox Frost White, is a pretty slow drying ink, so even if I do get kind of the shape of this, you know, oval stylus tool in here, you know, like that, it really gives me time to kind of spread it out and to even it out. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That one's not spreading out. I really globbed it on there, but I would never squeeze out ink like that, you know, like I just did on here. Okay, there we go. And what I like to do, sometimes I like to make the paint a little bit more built up around the light itself, like the light is the brightest around the source of it, and then it kind of dissipates as it moves off, you know, into the distance, and I use a little bit less pigment ink out, you know, farther away. Okay, so there is our, oops, let me see. Darn it, was I stamping off there, tapping out of the field of view? If I was, I certainly apologize about that. I wasn't watching my back of the camera. Okay, here we go. I need a gel pen here. Let's illuminate the light in here a little bit more. Okay. That, just taking that white pen and adding a nice bright light to the lamp. If you've ever seen these, it's really cool if you ever see like the lamp glass that used to go inside these lighthouses. They're really amazing the way it's kind of, I don't know, what, faceted, you know, to get maximum, I don't know, illumination or effectiveness. Okay, there's a couple windows on the side of this lighthouse that I'd like to put a light into, and that's one of those things that you can do like in cabins or anything like that. If your scene has gotten kind of dark, you just go back into it with a white paint pen like this, or white gel pen, and you illuminate it like so. Okay. Okay, now one of the things I've been doing in all these scenes is I've been stamping out some kind of quote. This one is, "Love must be a light as it is a flame." Okay? Right here by Thoreau. I'm not sure where I'm going to put that. It could go right here, or it could go in here. I was thinking about it being up here. But then now I'm going to have that beam running through it. But I think that would still stand out okay, but maybe it'd be better down here. There's kind of a natural opening for it right over here, I think. But, I don't know, we'll figure that. Oh, okay, now here's the other thing that I was thinking about doing. Okay, I'm going to add in some, highlights down here in this cloud formation. I want it to look nice and kind of soft and billowy, I guess would be the description I'm looking for. And I want those clouds down there to be kind of reflecting some of the light coming off of these, you know, these beams here, down here, okay? We don't need too much. In fact, that would be the thing that would kind of not look too good, okay? I think. I don't know. You gotta have to kind of play around with it and see, but I'm going to take a cotton swab. This one's really frayed. I was thinking that would be kind of the right consistency on my, you know, cotton swab here, Q-tip or whatever. There we go. All right. Okay, now this is where I need to zoom in again. Let's clear up some space here so you can see. Okay. All right. So on the billows of these clouds, the tops of them, okay, you can see where they're lighter, right? I'm going to try and reiterate that same thing with this pigment ink here. Okay, now don't add too much. Sometimes a little bit goes a long way, and too much is just that. It looks too busy or something like that, okay? So I just look for the lighter areas within the impressions, okay? And I'm adding a little bit more of this to those light areas. So you don't want to add a ton of it. One of the things that's good about the Colorbox ink here is that it's a little bit more translucent than, I think, like a Brilliance, or one of the things I need to get is that Unicorn Hero Arts white pigment ink. I heard that's really opaque, but maybe for this purpose that would stand out too much, okay? You want kind of a real translucent one, where the beauty of the Unicorn maybe is a little bit more opaque, but maybe you don't want the opacity, you know, with this type of look right here. I don't know, it might look great, but I have a lot of control over this because it's just, now see, it's really dry on here, so I'm really able to tap this pretty hard, and just with a few tappings, nothing shows up at all, so it gives me time, in other words, to kind of build it up. Okay, but you can kind of see it, yeah, you can kind of see it coming around. It's like a dull application of this, and that's what you want. You want it to where you have to kind of really tap it out quite a bit for anything to show up, or at least in my usage of it. I just find it easier to apply that way. There's a lot of control over it that way. All right. Well, I was going to do some things in the sky too, but ooh, that was a lot of ink right here. I was thinking about doing some things in the sky with like a torn paper towel technique. Yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. Alright, so what I'm going to try to do while I'm doing this technique right here is, you know, that torn paper towel technique to, I don't know, achieve different looks, like in background mountains, or this kind of real atmospheric, kind of dusk, dawn type of look. I thought I'd try something like that. Okay, in here. The trick is to kind of get something, a nice tear. Maybe that would be okay. Or will it? Let me see. Okay, it goes down like that. Okay. I see this as a source of light. Now, that source of light would not really be illuminating the clouds. It, you know, that would be too high, right? So, we're going to reference our light down here, and I am going to, let me see, illuminate a little bit. Let me see, it needs to go this way, right? I'm trying to, I gotta think about everything in reverse, so, okay, yeah. The bottom of the cloud will be kind of billowy like that, and that's what I'm doing here, okay? I'll do it like that, maybe. That looks pretty good. I'm not explaining this too clearly because I don't really know what this is going to look like, so I'm not like don't see the... A lot of these videos, you really can't look at it as like some of it is instruction, okay, because I've done it before. But in a lot of these videos, especially of late, you're just kind of watching me experiment, and I'm just kind of telling you all these things, you know, which are, you know, things in theory, okay, of what I'm kind of going after. So on this one right here, it'll be kind of this bottom lit, I don't know, cloud, kind of like that. Okay. Let's see if I can do that focus and see that. Now, I mean, that's just one there, but let's see if we can't kind of build upon that. Let me see, let me get another part of this right here and kind of all do it offset, maybe. Usually see this done in color. you know, with inks and whatnot, but we're doing it in white here, so let's see what that looks like. It doesn't have to be kind of completely an even application of this either, okay? See, like that. And here we have it like this. You can do it kind of coming from the bottom up too, if you want to, like over that horizon line, but okay, let's connect these two lines here a little bit. Kind of that top one right over there. Maybe I'll come this way. Like this. Ooh, that was a bit too much ink there. Kind of like rolling little clouds, you know. I don't know, it makes for a nice kind of texture, I guess. It's kind of a playful texture, as I've mentioned in kind of these previous, a couple of the previous videos. The spirit of this type of look here is, I feel it's like a children's book, picture book type of illustration. Now see these kind of coming up from the top like this, in a way, relates somewhat to the billows of the clouds down below. Okay, see that right there, and then we have these clouds down here, that mist, like so. Maybe I could put some of this down here as well. Let's really try to match it, okay, in some of these areas. I'm just kind of loosely finding a kind of a similar pattern to the pattern of an existing area down here. Okay, I think this is working out pretty good. I think we're getting a little bit of continuity between the shapes down below here, the highlighting down below, and what's going on up in the sky with those created, you know, kind of atmospheric sky figures. Ooh, ton of ink right there. And let's go for another nice bank of this kind of mist down below here. I'm always looking for kind of continuity and creating kind of visual relationships, or in this case, sometime like a thematic relationship between these three pieces, and like especially that last piece that I did with the musical kind of reference. Okay, yeah, that's looking pretty good down here now. I think that's looking better from a thematic standpoint. Look at that. Isn't that kind of nice? It's kind of like there's this one quote stamp that we have. I forgot who said it, but it was "Moonlight is sculpture," you know, so that kind of nighttime lighting is kind of interesting in terms of the forms that it creates. It's kind of an evocative light, right? Alright, I'm loving this now. In terms of this look right here with the color box on here, so I'm kind of adding more and more. Before the forms were somewhat subtle, okay, in terms of my usage of the cotton swab, but now, well, if it looks okay, then you can always add more to until you get what you want. Some nice clouds you can create, or some nice additional texture that you can create with a very inexpensive, you know, stamping tool here in the form of a, you know, ripped paper towel. Okay, let's have some coming up from the bottom here somehow. How about this? It's looking more and more dreamy, I guess, the more I add on here. Dreamy is that's not a bad thing, huh, when it comes to like a children's booky looking illustration, or a stamp scene in this case. It kind of really makes it fun. So, yet another kind of fun technique discovered with the Lighthouse stamps. Thank you, Lighthouse stamps. Gosh, that looks really fun. See, this is the type of thing that I don't know, it just might not have occurred to me in stamping scenes in color, but you do a different medium, yeah, and you take, you know, other things might occur to you through that process, and then you can kind of take that back to, you know, your other methods. And that's always kind kind of a nice little bonus, you know, for kind of playing around with media in a kind of a grander, bigger picture type of thing. It's kind of breaking out of your comfort zone, I guess, and kind of pushing the what is the word? Not extremes, but I don't know, my mind's a blank. I'm doing clouds right now. I think you know what I mean. Your I don't know, your capabilities, you know, you're stepping outside of the box, all that, you know, type of thing. But look at that. That looks extra. That looks a lot better than before. I didn't know going so light down here would be fine, but when you do it in this manner, and I'm kind of like adding a new texture altogether down there. So it looks a little bit more deep to me. Ah, boy. It kind of makes me feel like going into the other scenes that I've done too, and kind of adding some of these types of embellishments to it. Not all the scenes, I'm talking about the Lighthouse ones that I've done so far. Okay, let's see, let's tear this. That's the fun thing, you can kind of go with that, and then you tear a little bit more and you get a different angle in there, or a different type of shape to introduce. Alright, that is just darn fun. Okay. Look how dreamy that looks down here. Alright. Now, white paint pen. I mean, white gel pen. I said white paint pen for so many years in my workshops. Grab your white paint pen, grab your white paint pen. Now I just can't get off of that, you know. I was referring to the white paint pen. Even the gel pens have been out there for what, like 15 years maybe? Okay. Separation of textures. Adding some stars to my sky. You can come up into some of these clouds too, because they're very light clouds, or thin. Some of them are very thin. This one person that photographer, amateur photographer that I follow on Flickr, had posted an image shot through just with this camera, but you know, with a 600mm lens that he has. Probably, you know, that type of thing is good for like shooting wildlife, but he shot up in the sky knowing where the International Space Station was, remarkably so. And he, you know, blew it up, and it's probably in his impression. But you can see the International Space Station just shot with his, you know, regular camera. It wasn't shot through a telescope or anything like that, even though a, you know, 600 lens is, you know, it's pretty big, or pretty long. But, I don't know, International Space Station, so cool. Alright, now, I'm thinking about, I've put a little boat out in every one of my scenes so far. I'm not sure, maybe I won't do that on this one. Maybe I'll just leave that body of water as is. Okay, now one of the things I've been doing is, I've been doing like these little textures to kind of represent, you know, little ripples on the water. I thought I added too many in the last scene, but maybe I won't do it on this one. I thought I went up too far in the black. Now, in using glossy paper, if you add these little stars down, and if you don't like it, you can kind of wipe them right off, because the nature of the sealed paper, but I added a few little dots like this on the matte paper, and it was pretty affixed, you know, so if you're not sure if you want it, just add a few, hold it up at arm's distance, you know, take a look, see if you want to add more or not. Okay, I can maybe add a few little highlights on some of these clouds that I've created. Having so much fun adding this kind of mist down here. I kind of forgot about the quote. I still need to add that in there. Maybe I should have added it in before I added these dots. Well, I definitely should have. Okay, I can kind of see where these splashing waves are down here, so I'm going to add a few little more splashes. Like that. So that's how that's looking so far. Let's grab the quote stamp. Looks like it's just going to just fit onto this block, and I'm thinking about right here. Okay, let me see if I can remove some of those little dots. We don't want it to appear as though like you know, we've dotted like an A or something like that, you know, as far as the letter forms go. Rubbing this right here, it's kind of taking them off a little bit, so it doesn't look quite so stark white. I could probably go over it a little bit with some ink, but black ink again, but I don't know if I need to do that or not. Oh, let me see. I'm not sure why my black ink seems to be drying really fast. I guess because maybe it's because this is a matte paper here, and you know, it really absorbs the ink off of the sponge tip here. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm just speculating. Okay, so I've kind of tinted those dots around here a little bit. And right here. I love what's going on down here. This is really kind of a nice look, I think, for this scene. My Colorbox white ink is a little bit dry, so I'm really taking some time to really build up enough ink on the surface here of the stamp to give me a nice, even, hopefully, impression. Now this is one of those things where I think I would prefer a little bit more of a opaque impression. Maybe that Hero Arts unicorn white would be a little bit more opaque, but this is what I have to work with. This is going to be a little bit more subtle because it's a little bit more translucent. Okay, looks pretty good. Love must be a light, as much a light as it is a flame. Yeah, see those little dots there, a little bit distracting, detracting, whatever. But, a couple final touches here in the form of some pigment ink, and making some of these stars kind of glow. Maybe a planet has a little bit of a glowing look to it. Putting kind of a dry brush application of paint over it. Don't put a big glob now, okay? And don't try to get, you know, something built up too fast. Otherwise it'll be real blobby. And you can just pick out whichever ones you want to have glowing. There's no set amount or anything like that, or size of one that you have to make glow or not. Just, I don't know, maybe some of these stars are younger than others. Like the Pleiades or something. Okay. Let's see, does anything else occur to do on this? I'm not sure. But kind of a nice tapestry, I guess, you know, in terms of textures and pattern on here. So let's see what this card will look like in its intended format, okay? So we have a nice composition right here. I think that looks good on it, you know, on its own. Do you think it should? look good on its own. When you're doing these spreads like this, you want, you know, your main spread to read just as is, you know, on itself. But then when we open it, here we have this much more expansive view. And the other ones, the one thing I like about the other ones too is that there's another subject matter out there. I don't know, maybe I will add that boat out there, or a sailboat or something. I have that breaching whale. Maybe it's too big for that. Let me take a look here. Okay, breaching whale. I think this would have looked cool in here, but I've already added all those little dots, so I'm going to see if it's too late to get that in there. So I'm going to stamp out a kind of a test print first and make an assessment if I can. It's nice to have kind of something as a focal point, you know, from scene to scene. And although this is one whole scene right here, when you're talking about it being kind of broken up into a card format, where you're talking about, well, that's the front of the card and that's the back of the card, you do kind of have to see it as two different scenes in a way. Now, maybe this whale is a little bit too large to really be in that position right there, but I think it's just, it might be too much fun to leave out. So, okay, I'm going to see if I can scratch off. This is just one of my scraper tools that I use with the clay board, and I'll just try to remove off as much as I can here with those dots. What I'm hoping is that I'm not kind of just disrupting the paper too much right here. And I want it still nice and flat. It's a little bit weird because, I don't know, it's hard to take off all that, all of that gel off the paper, but I think I got to take off this one too, otherwise I don't want these dots to be looking like it's coming out of the whale's lips or something like that. Okay. All right. We'll see. Kind of holding it down a little bit longer, but don't press too hard. I'm just kind of holding it down firmly, nice and evenly, to hopefully get enough of that ink to transfer, especially where I had those dots. Now, I might have to be doing a little bit of fill-in work with like a black pen. Doesn't look too bad. I still don't like those dots coming right above his lips, but I think that's what it needed right there, the whale right there. Now it's standing out a little bit because it's wet right now, so it's a little bit darker than it will be. It'll be that same value there, but I don't know. I think that looks pretty good. I don't know. See this right here? See, this looks like a composition unto itself, right? And so does this. But you open it up and they work really good in conjunction with one another. So this one right here, without that whale, you know, it didn't look like, you know, a complete composition to me. But this does. Alright? So anyway, let's see something here. The bleed-proof white would be really nice on here too, but I'm going to hit this whale up with a little bit of accessorizing, you know, in terms of a little bit of starlight maybe on it. Something like that. It stands out a little bit, but... And then maybe around here, I'll add in some additional, like, little splashes. See, it is kind of breaching. Okay. It might be a little bit too much on that fin there, but let's see if we can narrow some of those little highlights there. Or maybe I'll scrape them off, which will leave kind of a little bit of a lighter highlight on there, which might look okay. Yeah, that looks okay. Alright, actually that looks pretty good there. Okay, here we go. And as seen on the whole, front of card, back of card. I really like this composition right here with the text. I love text within compositions and whole scenes. So anyway, look at that sky up here with those clouds. It has a nice kind of playful look to it. It's kind of like a really non-threatening, but look at these clouds down here that have been achieved. You can do it without the texture, but I think it looks really good with that texture underneath there too. You know, those blue clouds and the deeper shadows, and then here we have the light with the real dramatic style of lighting coming from out of it. So I think this made for a really nice kind of complete a scene to complete the series. Okay, so let's see what we have here. We have our first one right here, where I kind of learned something, I don't know, black on dark and white on dark, and then we did this one right here, which I really like doing. But now we have this one right here, so we have the third in a series. And let's see if I can kind of raise my tripod up a little bit more. Okay. I have so many wires coming here now with the new kind of microphone that I'm using lately. But anyways, here we have our three pieces. Each one of them is related by the there's a relationship in terms of the horizon lines on all of them. Sorry, you can't see all of them. I don't have a wide enough angle here, but these two right here are somewhat similar in terms of the structure right here. And then this one kind of goes really off on its own. I guess it's similar in terms of the positioning of this lighthouse to this one, you know, set in the middle of this front area. And they're all, I guess they all are roughly around the same height in terms of the lighthouse placement of it. So, yeah, you can see that horizon line running across all of them. So, kind of fun here. Just in terms of playing around with the formats here. So let's say you have someone that's really into something from a thematic standpoint. Yeah, I don't know if anyone would ever do that, but you could do something, you know, where you have this series of cards coming out from them that are somewhat related. You would have to, you know, keep one of your cards as a reference point in terms of what you did on it, you know, so that you can kind of do the other two. But can you imagine, like, you know, you get 3 birthdays in a row or something like that, and when they get something, they get something, they get another one, and it's like a series that they can, you know, reference or view or enjoy together, or they, you know, they have them up, you know, on a, you know, area that they keep their cards from you. A lot of people display cards from card makers because they're handmade, one-of-a-kind pieces, and, you know, those types of cards a lot of times stay up a little bit longer, so. But it would be kind of interesting, you know, they would have these 3 and kind of shown as you know, a triptych or something like that, or just shown as a, you know, a related series. Something like this probably could go on display. I guess the blue, you know, the black I don't think would fade. I don't think you'd need to worry about the pigment ink on here. But the blue, I guess the blue paper could potentially fade, you know, colored paper like that, so. But anyway, boy, you know, this could too. I mean, this is kind of the outer spread, but you can make this an inner spread too, like this. You know, you can fold the card this way and put some things on here, like a greeting or happy birthday or whatever. And can you imagine them opening up this? Because that looks really neat as well. And then you can do it here, and you can put a little, I don't know, something. If there's a whale in there, you could put something like that, or a whale fin, or something like that. Or you can put, I don't know, whatever you're going to put on here in the theme. And then if you opened it up this way, that's a heck of a scene to kind of reveal. I don't know, I guess in the interior, I don't know, you can write someone's to whoever, you know, and write, you know, love whatever or something like that, or you can put your name down here or something. But that would be a pretty awesome spread. So exterior spread front and back, but interior works good too. So anyway, so much fun. Thank you to the lighthouses and the people that used to work in them and be stationed out, you know, for a lonely position at times. It's always kind of been cool to see different lighthouses in different areas, and I think there's some, well, I don't know how many, but there's a few that I think are actually like bed and breakfasts now, decommissioned lighthouses, and I always thought that would be kind of cool to stay overnight. So hope you enjoyed the scene. I hope you enjoyed the series of scenes here. I think I'll be saying goodbye to the dark blue cardstock for a little bit, because I think I've explored some things on there, and I'm tapping into at least some of the possibilities of it, and realizing what can be done. So I don't know, I'll have to play around with some other types of things on these scenes right here, and see what we can come up with. But I don't know, you can make for some really dramatic looking skies, and I don't know, there's something to the different patterns of this type of technique that I think can be really, really explored and I don't know, utilized to I don't know, to add on to our repertoire of existing techniques for all of our paper crafting needs, card making needs, I guess. Thanks so much again. You can visit Stampscapes.com for more information, for these videos consolidated in one area, and I don't know, to reference other scenes using these existing stamps here. That might have been the first time I used the whale in a scene, I'm not sure. So, thanks as always, and hope you enjoyed it.